Panhandles. You know 'em, you love 'em. Very practical. Keep your hands from burning when you're cooking things on a stove. A very natural thing to have attached to a pan. So why the heck do countries have them? Who looked at Namibia and thought, it's alright, but you know what it could use? A panhandle. This part of Namibia is called the Caprivi Strip, and it's a panhandle, or salient, that sticks out of the northeast corner of the country. It borders Botswana to the south and Angola and Zambia to the north, and it almost touches Zimbabwe, but not quite. But why does it exist? Well, it dates back to colonial times, when the Germans were in charge of the territory. They wanted access to the Zambezi River, so they made a deal with the British Empire and traded their interest in Zanzibar in favor of this tiny little strip of land. Unfortunately for the Germans, it turns out they didn't actually have much use for it, so it was kind of a bad deal. The good news is, Namibia is the only country in the world with a panhandle like that. What's that? Afghanistan? This little bit of Afghanistan is called the Wakhan Corridor, and it dates back to, you guessed it, colonial times. The British were involved once again, but this time they set the panhandle up as a buffer zone between British India and the Russian Empire. Because it's so separated from the rest of Afghanistan, the people who live there have been largely unaffected by the conflict happening in the country, until recently. The strip serves as a land border with China, which might have been more useful if it wasn't such rocky, rough terrain. The good news is Afghanistan is the only other country in the world with a panhandle. God damn it. Anyways, panhandles, or salients, are luckily the only border anomalies that exist in the world, so it doesn't get more complicated than that. Okay, so I lied. Let's talk about enclaves and exclaves. An enclave is a part of a country that's entirely surrounded by another country. For example, the country of San Marino, which is entirely surrounded by Italy, or West Berlin back before Germany was united. An exclave is a part of a country that's entirely geographically separated from the main country. So, for example, French Guiana is an exclave, or the Kaliningrad Oblast in Russia. Exclaves are often themselves enclaves. Seems pretty simple, right? Well, what if you had an enclave inside of an exclave that was itself an enclave? Now, that's exactly what happened with the Nawa territory, which belongs to the United Arab Emirates, but is completely surrounded by the Mahda territory of Oman, which is itself surrounded by the United Arab Emirates. And don't even get me started on this mess that's happening between Belgium and the Netherlands. The good news is that panhandles, enclaves, and exclaves are the only border anomalies. Have you ever seen a map of the world and wondered why the border between Egypt and Sudan has this weird little spot on it? Well, it's because of a border dispute. Normally, border disputes are pretty straightforward. One country wants what the other country has and thinks they own it. However, this little spot in Egypt and or Sudan is a bit of a special case because it turns out neither country wants it. They're both willing to give it up in favor of this spot over here. Why? Well, this spot is fantastic real estate. Beachfront property, a sizable population, good stuff. This spot is a barren desert wasteland. So Egypt says to Sudan, you can have this one, and I'll take that one, and we'll call it even. Well, Sudan says, no, you can have that one, and I'll take this one. That seems pretty even to me. And now you see the problem. Believe it or not, a similar issue occurs along the border between Croatia and Serbia, but it's a little bit stranger. Basically, there's a dispute along the border about how the border should be drawn. Serbia wants it to look something like this, and Croatia wants it to look something like this. As you can see, this leaves a little bit of land unclaimed. Or, it was unclaimed, until this guy swooped in and claimed it as his own. Although he's received little to no recognition from any other countries, and there's no infrastructure on the land, he still claims that it's a fully independent nation. So it turns out there's a lot of weird things about borders. People simply can't seem to draw them up in a way that makes sense. I guess the silver lining is that it makes for an interesting topic to talk about.